We are living in strange times. Perhaps more than ever before in our lifetimes, it is critically important that we stay connected to the divine, our souls, and to keep our energetic vibrations high. That can be incredibly hard to do in the face of the 24-hour news cycle, social media, and personal and relational division. But it is possible to raise your frequency in order to support and manifest good in your life and in the world. The Higher Vibrations meditation class with Cynthia Alice Anderson will meet online in June on Wednesday evenings. Higher Vibrations will focus on the transformation of low vibes, opening to peace, finding higher vibrations, and will give practical application for your life. You can drop in for a single Higher Vibrations class for just $15 or enroll in the entire class for the discounted rate of $45. Seating is limited and the Higher Vibration class starts soon, so enroll today at cynthiaaliceanderson.com/higher vibrations. Natural Awakenings Magazine and Zen Living Realty present The Authentic Spiritual Journey, a weekly show featuring real and practical spiritual conversations from diverse perspectives here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Today, episode 101, The Change We Need. And now your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Hello and welcome to The Authentic Spiritual Journey. My name is Cynthia Alice Anderson. I am the host, and I am thrilled to be back in 818 Studios with my producer.
Hello, everybody. This is Dave Croft. Thank you so much for joining us for show 101. And
boom!
Alice, I am so excited to have you back in the studio. Not that, it's fun doing the remote thing. And, last week we went outside, and that was so special. But this is like slipping into a pair of warm, comfortable jeans.
Yes, it is. Nothing better than that in my view. I grew up in denim, man. That's what's happening.
But I am welcome back to 818 Studios, and we got everything going, and I'm glad to finally see you again in high definition picture and all of that.
Yes, exactly. Well, the other thing, and we absolutely did our best for you to have a good experience, and we did get a lot of wonderful feedback. So thank you so much for your support of the show. Thank you so much that people around the world are still joining with us and for sharing information about the show. And, I'm so excited to be with you, that you trust me to support you in your journey. That means the world to us. And we continue to provide amazing shows. And we've done a lot of recording recently, and we're going to have some amazing guests coming out the end of June and even the end of July. So we're really ready to lift you up, and we have some amazing individuals. One is a psychotherapist, who used to work with the WHO. Another one is an amazing spiritual teacher. So
and we're also going to have some more of our favorite artists come through. We're gonna see Denise Rosier again and Daniel Nahmod and John Stringer. We're going to bring those guys back onto the show, and they're going to perform for you remotely. Because we are still, we're still coming out of this, but we're still very much, social distanced, and nobody's flying anywhere. And so, we had Denise lined up. And the week that all of this shook down back in March, she had a gig canceled. She flew home. We canceled the concert, that she was doing at CCU. But we finally, the stars have aligned, and we've got Denise lined up again. And so we've got a great number of shows coming out to you here in the summer after just last week's show, which was so special. And I really enjoyed that show.
Oh, that was awesome, being out at the park and all those beautiful sounds. And I can't wait to hear from you, our listeners, about how that translated and if you could feel the energy. But it was amazing that just as we set up, it was like all of a sudden all the birds around there said, let's have a conference. Right. Let's join in with you guys. We want to be in this energy.
Right. Yep.
And they blessed us, and I believe we blessed them, because we were all about the universe and connecting in, and a lot of great moments I know on that show.
Gorgeous morning, too. Gorgeous morning.
It was a gorgeous morning. I think there was only one mower that we had to contend with.
And
at
a
one
couple
time.
of construction workers in the
Yeah.
background, a siren or
Yeah.
two.
Everybody else was just kind of very curious about what we were doing, recording the show.
Yeah.
So, but today is a great day. It is show 101, and completing 100 shows is a milestone. And we feel honored to do it, as I said, and we feel honored to be able to tell you about many other opportunities to connect in. And one is a class I have coming up. It starts next Monday. Unexpected Income, and that's a great class.
And that's starting June 8th. Is that right?
Starting Monday, June 8th. And there's also another class actually starting this Wednesday, my Higher Vibrations class. It's a great class to help you in meditation. So if you've been meditating 30 years or you've never meditated before, you will definitely get something out of this class.
Yeah, and you've probably already noticed some little informational spots at the beginning of the show. We just thought that would be a great way for you to know right out of the gate what Alice has going on and everything that she's bringing, because there's so much, and it's all very, very personal, very interactive, and so you probably have already started hearing some of those things.
Yes. Although I got going last night in a class and talked for 20 minutes straight and said, okay, I promise I want to hear from you, but I had to get that. So, yes, I feel a spiritual mandate. Many of you know my vision for my life is to ignite soul evolution in humanity. I teach speak and counsel individuals and groups to grow, prosper, and evolve. I mean, this is what I say every day. When I wake up in the morning, this is what I am excited to do. I do this at CCU Orlando with great love and great joy, supporting that spiritual community. I do it every day by teaching online and counseling people one-on-one. So this show is just another way that I reach people around the world. And again, thank you for being a part of it. So today is show 101, and the title is
The Change We Need.
The Change We Need. The change we need. So I'm going to give you a moment to breathe, to really put your listening ears on. I used to say that in school when I worked with the kids. We're going to put our listening ears on. And the way we do that in this work is we listen from the heart. So the change we need. We often discuss the work of the soul. We often discuss the work of the soul as it relates to the greater community. We've also discussed that this is a time of great awakening. I have been inspired by the time that we've been in to go inward. I mean, our public officials, our elected officials are saying, go inward. Well, most of them are. The responsible ones are saying, stay home, go inward. And I realize that this is a time of great awakening, as I said, and it is a time for deep, deep soul work. But I have not said what do I believe needs to happen next. So this is critical to discuss because the scriptures say, without a vision, the people perish. So I want to give you my vision of what I see as next, the change we need. The change we need is we need whites advocating for black rights. We need blacks advocating for Latinos and Native Americans. We need Native Americans advocating for the LGBTQ community. And we need the LGBTQ community to advocate for the homeless and those with disabilities. And we need corporate CEOs that care enough about their employees to not only put in policies, but attitudes that make sexual harassment in the workplace impossible. We also need Christians advocating for Muslims We also need politicians that actually want to protect and serve the people that they are responsible for. This is the change we need. Before COVID-19 hit, every group was out picketing for something. You know, if you're not for peace, I'm going to hit you with my peace sign. If you're not for Black Lives Matter, I'm going to knock you over the head with that. If you're not for Me Too movement, I'm going to take you down. Well, the problem is, if you are in any of these groups and you march, suddenly you're the one with an agenda. But now I've noticed, if you're white and have guns and stand on the courthouse steps, you're simply demonstrating. I've never been clear, by the way, what the homosexual agenda is supposed to be. If you're black and you protest, you have a chip on your shoulder. See, we say we are one. We say we're growing and evolving. And I'm all about growing and evolving. As a matter of fact, all last month, I did a series called 30 Days to Fearless Living. But then what? Okay, so I'm moving out of fear. I know God loves me. Good. But then what? It can't just be about me anymore. It can't be. For those of you who haven't noticed, COVID-19 doesn't care how much money you make or how you look. It hit a cross-section of society. Now, it is hitting African Americans more, it seems, and it is hitting those with darker skin. I've learned some scientific research about that, as well as very often people of color are in positions where they're having to work amidst the virus. There's also a thing about not being able to absorb vitamin D as well, by the way. I heard this from a scientist, so I'm not a scientist, do the research, but what I notice is everybody's being impacted. And this is a time to awaken to our oneness. This is a time to awaken to our oneness. And I know these things I'm saying for some people may be difficult. Good. Good. I want you to think. I want you to wake up to the fact that if you're not advocating for somebody different than you, you're not living in your oneness. This is called self-centeredness. This is not growing and evolving. This is diminishing and constricting. So we need woke people to make the change that we need. And it'll only happen in communities and in states and in countries and in the world when we do it individually. See, we keep wanting change to happen from the outside in, and the only way it's ever happened is through individuals making new choices. It's only ever happened with individuals making new choices. I grew up in Georgia, where last month there was a shooting of a man who was jogging, a black man, who was shot by two white people that wasn't even investigated. This is not okay to me in any way, shape, or form. This is not okay. And unless I, as a white person, say that, unless I, as a faith leader, say that, I'm a part of the problem. I also just learned that, I don't know how I missed this in the news cycle, I guess because I've unplugged some. I just learned that President Trump refused to unveil President Obama's portrait in the White House. I don't think this has happened in American history, that someone refused to unveil a portrait of a past president.
Yeah, I think it's been like 40 years or something like
I
that.
mean, that is insane. So, as a faith leader, I don't care what political party you are in, this is not okay. Because these kinds of behaviors stir up racism that has been latent or under the surface. These kind of behaviors put Americans in danger, Americans of color in danger. So if you want to really make a difference at the level of the soul, start speaking for someone other than yourself. Start being concerned with someone other than yourself. And you'll have every right you ever needed. When you give of yourself to someone else, to another group, they will care more about you and your group. The change we need is to start acting like we say we believe that we are one. That we are one. What we need is whites advocating for blacks. We need blacks advocating for other people of color, Latinos, Native Americans. Even Asians right now are having a tough time because of COVID. We need Latinos, Natives, Asians advocating for LGBTQ. And we need LGBTQ advocating for the homeless and those with disabilities. And yes, even Christians or Muslims for religious freedom. And we need to bring into office, vote into office, politicians that actually care about serving and protecting the people they are responsible for as leaders. We cannot keep expecting others to do what we ourselves are not willing to do. It's very difficult when our world leaders are acting like grown children. And I mean, one of the main issues we need kids parented by actual grown parents, not just people who are older acting like children. We need real parents who take responsibility for their actions, that support and love their children. This is the change we need. But we can only get it by becoming it ourselves. No one can hand this to us. And part of the issue is every group is so calcified in worrying about itself that it can't see past the current situation. But there's a higher thing that's going on. The awakening will only happen as these changes begin to occur within us. This is the change we need. So as we wake up, as we begin to live better lives, meaning God-centered, as we begin to know that we are powerful, that we as souls have nothing to fear, that God loves us, that God supports us, then it is our spiritual mandate to move that out into the world and advocate for someone else besides ourselves. So you're waking up. We always say we are about reawakening consciousness to love, acceptance, and peace. Well, when you've done that in yourself, that's when the message goes out and helps others, pull others up, help the world wake up to new ideas that we are one. And this happens every day. It happens how you shop, how you respond, the people that you are connected to, the attitudes that you are willing to put up with or not. Every day we have a choice. Are we going to just complain about everything that's happening? Or are we going to help create the change that we need? And tearing somebody down on Facebook, friends, does nothing except for keep negative energy going. It helps us feel righteous in our position, but it does nothing to change the world for the better. And that's what I'm about. This is the change we need. We need, on purpose, enlightened individuals making a better world one day at a time, 1 hour at a time, one interaction at a time. This is the change we need. Ask yourself if you're really willing to do this. Ask yourself if you are really willing to evolve past what you know. Ask yourself if you're really willing to move out of your comfort zone. Are you willing to advocate for another? Are you willing to see your oneness with everyone? This is the change we need. We'll say more about this right after a few messages.
We'll return to the program in just a few moments, but first, we wanted to give a special word of thanks to our podcast partner, Natural Awakenings Magazine of Central Florida, Greater Orlando. Each month, Natural Awakenings magazines across the country take a practical look at the latest natural approaches to nutrition, fitness, creative expression, personal growth, and sustainable living. Natural Awakenings magazine is a free publication and is available in selected stores, health and education centers, healing centers, public libraries, and wherever free publications are located. You could learn more, including advertising opportunities for your business, by calling 407-628-0705. We'd also like to extend our special thanks to Zen Living Realty. Zen Living Realty's mission is to mindfully serve, connect, and positively impact their customers, partners, and community through their Zen approach to real estate. Their vision is to be the most trusted real estate brokerage in the Central Florida area. You can reach Zen Living Realty at zenlivingrealty.com or call 407-800-2717. And now we return you to this week's episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey with your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Welcome back. We are glad you are with us. Dave, I want you to share what you were sharing with me at the break.
Yeah, it's almost as if this Jesus guy had it right all along. I mean, isn't that the foundational tenet of love thy neighbor as yourself? I mean, that's the whole deal.
That's pretty simple. Love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and your neighbor as yourself.
Right.
It's pretty simple.
Now, what I wonder is, have people lost the thread here because they just, Jesus, or do they not love themselves? I got to be honest. I'm having if my concept of myself isn't just me, but is my entire ethnicity. Mm-hmm. My entire I have a hard time loving 43% of white America right now. The 43% that voted for the current administration and all of that.
Yes.
The 43% that are represented in those two guys who went all vigilante justice or whatever and murdered a jogger. I have a hard time loving that part of myself if myself includes my race group, my ethnicity group. And so, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I really had to come to terms with being white, to be honest. I know that might sound funny to people of color, but for all the reasons Dave is saying, as well as, I grew up in a situation where I was a minority. I grew up in a mostly black neighborhood. And, I saw what the quote unquote white, people did, how they acted. Luckily the family I grew up in was not a typical Southern family with a lot of racism. I mean, my parents definitely were not, and even my mom's parents were not. I mean, any kind of racial statements were not allowed. So even though in my home I didn't experience a lot of it, or any of it that I can remember growing up in Georgia, just outside of Atlanta, of course. The racism, it was not even hidden. In other places around the country when I was coming up, of course it was there, but it was more hidden. Man, in the South, it's right out there. You don't know how I feel, check the flag on on my house.
Right, or it's legislated by the actual government.
Yeah, it was actually legislated, exactly. So I'm with you, Dave. I mean, I had to come to terms with my being white. I had to actually admit to myself at one point I was actually white. I've always been real connected with my Native heritage. And I think one of the reasons is, who wants to be white with the way people act that are in power that are white? And I think you might be noticing I'm staying away from phrases like white privilege, like Black Lives Matter, because I think those phrases, even though maybe they're good for sound bites, I'm not sure they're really helpful in real dialogues, because I think some white privilege is just totally unconscious. As a human being, of course, Black Lives Matter, but when I looked at the Black Lives Matter website and there was, condoning violence against police officers, I can't get behind that. Yeah. I can't get behind that. But do Black Lives Matter? Of course. And so even trying to support can be difficult, because I want to have real conversations, not just say the right soundbite so that everybody thinks, I'm cool on a certain issue.
Yeah, and I think that's where meaningful discussions are really important. I used to play with I don't think we talked about this on the show, but I used to play drums for a rap rock group.
Yeah.
And the lead singer was this big, huge, burly black dude with big dreads and everything. And we were going to a concert or a show, and we were all in a van, and I was riding shotgun and he was driving, and the rest of the van was asleep. And we just had a real honest, transparent conversation about race, and white privilege kind of came up, and I was just like, nothing was given to me. I had to work, and all of those talking points, that kind of go against white privilege. And I wasn't combative about it or anything, but I was just like, you know what? I feel like nothing was really handed to me. And he really talked to me and shared his experience, as a black man in modern America.
Yeah.
And things that I just didn't even realize were a thing, whether it's somebody kind of tightening up their purse in a store, or or the clinchy feeling that he gets every single time a police officer goes by.
That's absolutely very real.
And so it took a really transparent conversation where he wasn't defensive, I wasn't defensive, and I just said, help me understand. And there is a point where I won't be able to fully understand everything that he goes through, because I am not a black man in modern America. But he was really patient with me, and that really turned the page for me as far as understanding what white privilege is. Not to use a politically charged term, but to realize that certain ethnicities, just like certain financial groups and just like certain countries, they were afforded advantages.
Yes. And I think that's good to say, Dave, to kind of unravel that, because yes, because if we use here's why I said that about the term white privilege. If I say the term white privilege, somebody's going to say, well, I didn't have anything, and so it's easy to discount that. That's the problem with sound bites, is it's easy to discount that. And yes, certain groups, just based on being in a certain cultural group, you will have different opportunities than others of a different racial group growing up in the exact same community.
Absolutely. And think of it this way. Any American, regardless of ethnicity, any American has privilege over someone born in Serbia.
Yes. It's kind of a no-brainer.
Right.
Yes.
Or somebody born in Nigeria. You have to recognize that just by your geographical lottery win, you have an advantage. And that goes towards race as well and ethnicity. And,
Yes.
and I think it starts with recognizing that and kind of, for me, it was rather kind of putting away the defensive, I had to work for everything I have, and hearing him. And I think that's how healing starts. And that radically changed my opinion and my outlook on it.
Oh, I bet. Well, I don't know. The comedian Dave Chappelle has some great commentary on this. And one of his jokes, I actually experienced where, he has a joke, and I'm not going to try to do the joke. I'm just going to explain the context, where he talks about, being in a black neighborhood in the car, making sure there's always a white guy with you for if you get pulled over. And that actually happened to me, where I was the white person. And so there's 3 other people in the car, and they're all black, and the officer looks past all of them and says to me, "Are you okay?" That actually happened in probably 1985. So, 80s, I'm talking about, in Georgia. So for anybody who's black or a person of color, they're sitting at home going, "Oh yeah, I bet. This is not new information. This is something, that's been a part of their growing up." When you're little, you don't have to intuit. You're told, now, if you're pulled over, this is what you do. I know many families who had that conversation. It's a constant topic of conversation, just like with Native people, it is about when Columbus landed. See, to white people, that's something in a book. To Native people, that's their grandparents and great-grandparents.
Culture.
That's their culture. Not grandparents and but I'm saying their ancestors. It's like, we've had trouble since Columbus landed. This isn't new, and it isn't going away, and we're still here on the reservation, and we still don't get the resources, and the treaties still aren't honored. It's like
that's one of the things that I think Germany got really right post World War II.
Yes.
Is they did not, first of all, they didn't erect statues to Nazi heroes and called it heritage. They didn't do that.
Yeah, right.
Right?
That's another Southern thing, heritage, not hate. Yeah.
Right. And they took a really hard inward look at how we got here and how not to let this happen again. Now, I'm not saying Germany's perfect, but they did not pull away from the thing that could have, and still to this day, really stains their history. And this is something we as Americans haven't really done.
Right.
And if I say reparations and you get all clenchy, then you probably still have a little bit of work to do on that. Now, that's complicated, and I have no idea how I would solve it.
Yes.
But it starts with recognizing, not to make this all about, American history, but, Americans' original sin, if you wanted to call it that, that we still to this day haven't really atoned for.
Right. Well, there's been no admittance that anything was done wrong. As a matter of fact, the general thing is, what's wrong with you? That you think there's a problem.
Shouldn't you be glad? But here's just to kind of back it up a little bit.
Sure.
One of the things I really like about what you're talking about is every people group is advocating for another people group.
Yes.
And I really like that. Now, can I play devil's advocate here?
Sure.
Who would you say would be advocating for white folks? Are we at the top of the pyramid?
Nobody needs to advocate for you, for us.
I guess that kind of gets wrapped up in homelessness and everything. But you kind of know it. I'm just saying, if I'm a white listener listening to this, a straight white male, which I am. I'm the trifecta of right golden boy or whatever. But do I just get over it? Hey, nobody's going to advocate for you.
What's happened to you as a result of your race that has made you victimized or unfairly treated by society at large? Answer that question.
The fact that I can't immediately go, this thing.
There you go.
Other than crippling debt.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But crippling debt doesn't necessarily know race.
Yeah, right, because Right, because debt is a choice.
Yep.
Right. So yeah, there isn't anything. And with every other group I mentioned, there is.
Understood.
In my and in the show, many of you know at the beginning, I had a co-host who was what? African American. Yes. My first guest that we had on, Eddie Watkins Jr., African American. My first artist, who did I bring on? John Stringer, African American. So who was the first kind of name celebrity I brought on? Samba Shoot, African American, literally from Africa. He was, from Ethiopia. And then I was talking with a friend who was trying to help me get some other guests, more renowned guests, so that as we bring on more guests that are more renowned, it gets more people aware of the work that we're trying to do. And everybody I mentioned happened to be of color. And she said, well, why? She said, is there a reason that you want all people of color? And I said, yes. And she said, why? I said, because I can. Because it's my show, I can bring on whoever I want. And I want people of color to have a voice, right? Because they haven't had a voice. And so many people I knew growing up, I've mentioned many times in messages that growing up, my dad had a good friend, and he helped us a lot in our home. And I knew his daughter really well. She was in my scout troop, Mr. Willie, and he was like an extra dad figure to me, and he was African American. So, I didn't think anything of in that way. I just grew up with Mr. Willie as like, I don't know, a big brother or another dad. That was just, the way it was. It was noticeable because it was unusual in other homes, but this was just our life. So I know intimately from friends and loved ones who have had the experience of being treated as less than human simply because of their color. And it is ridiculous. And it is definitely not based in the scriptures. It is definitely not based in the teachings of Jesus. No matter what people say the Bible says, you need to go home and read it. This is my commandment, that you love one another, that your joy may be full, that your joy may be complete. Many of you know one of the organizations I choose to support is Orlando Minority Youth Golf Association, founded and run by men of color to help minority kids learn to play golf, which is typically seen as a white sport. But here are kids I go and speak to, I give money to, I support. It's executive director, it's leaders. Why? Because I can. Because I choose to. Because I know that makes a difference in the world. When I reach beyond my ethnic group, when I reach beyond what is known, when I reach beyond this very comfortable moment where I find myself. So I hope you're thinking about how you can reach beyond your own group, how you can reach beyond what you've known, and that maybe you can begin to look at some of the ideas that you've held. And so often I want to say that the ideas you hold are largely unconscious because they're so a part of culture you can't even see them yet. And the only way you will see them probably is, as Dave and I have both said, real conversations, because you care enough to ask. Real conversations because you care enough to ask. And what I know is that because we are one, because we are souls, your soul will be blessed as you do this. I can't tell you how good it feels to have friends all over the world of all different racial backgrounds and ethnicities. My life is so rich because of this experience. So I want to really lift you up and encourage you to move past what it is you know to help the awakening happen and that we say we are all about. Please remember that the awakening that we so desire cannot be given to you or to me. We're creating it. We are the creators of the awakening that's happening right now. So we do the work of our soul. We begin to live life fearlessly, meaning we're living it from the soul, knowing we're loved, knowing we're supported, knowing we are one with God and one with all. And then we begin to reach past our areas of comfort. So that if we're white, we're advocating for people of color. If we're Black, we're advocating for Latinos, for Natives, for Asians. That group advocating for LGBTQ. That group advocating for homeless, for those with disabilities. That politicians would actually care about the people they serve, and that they would literally serve and protect them in a way that showed that deep level of caring. That Christians would advocate for Muslims, for their religious freedom, to not be harassed simply because of what they wear and how they worship. So you may be sitting here saying, that's just a dream. And the answer is, that's right. That is a dream. I believe in dreaming big. But I'm not the first one. And I definitely won't be the last to dream this dream. So I hope you join with me in this dream and making this dream a reality. This is the change we need. And it absolutely begins with you, with me, with each one of us. So we thank you, dear friend, for joining us on this journey. We thank you for blessing us with your listening. We thank you for blessing us with your trust. We honor you on your soul's journey. Our prayer for you is always that you will know God and that God will ignite this passion, this fire in you to care deeply, not only about yourself and your own journey, but about the world at large. So we are supporting you. We are continuing to lift you in our prayers every day for God's highest and best in your life. Many blessings.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey presented by Natural Awakenings Magazine and Zen Living Realty. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is also made possible through the continued support of our angel patrons, Dove Borland, Peter Gibson, Paul Caswell, Arlene Meyer, Kathy and Terry, Marcia Mott, Nora Miles, Diana Cox, Leslie Williams, Susanna Garcia, Shayla Mount, Dorothy Moore, Aggie Payton, Taryn Tucker, and Anna Evans. The Authentic Spiritual Journey is copyright 2020 Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission from RR Hot Publishing. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.